hey, you want to go do X, Y, and Z with me? I think you're totally cool despite everything that's wrong with you. And I say, well, no, I'm sorry, I'm taken. I made a very special promise to a very special lady. And thankfully, they've yet to ask me who that lady is. It's the Enterprise. Because I pushed this button, I can't stop singing, and the radar keeps pinging. Since I pressed the button, I can't stop for nothing. This song and dance got me in a trance, and I failed to take a defensive stance. Now I'm on the bridge, time to press that button. Oops, wrong one. Shields down, I'm such a clown. Now we got a hull breach, ain't life a beach. How am I supposed to review this episode? I don't know anything about musicals. And since this episode truly is a musical, you kind of have to know a little bit about musicals to give it a true review. It's so subjective. This season has been so experimental. Is this the most experimental season of Star Trek ever? For good or for bad, depends on who you ask. This is subspace rhapsody. Rhapsody, music, subspace, communication. What's going to happen here? Do you remember In a Mirror Darkly? Do you remember that season 4, I think 2-parter from Enterprise? A lot of people wondered, wait a minute, how did we get to the mirror universe? I think eventually behind the scenes it was decided, you know what? Let's just not explain it. Let's just have the whole episode set in the mirror universe. Why not? This episode makes some hackneyed attempt to explain how this is happening in the context of Strange New Worlds. And I couldn't help but wonder, should we have just pulled a Mirror Darkly and just said, you know what? Let's make the entire thing just a musical. Let's not explain it. Let's say it's not in the continuity of Strange New Worlds. Would that have been more fun? I don't know. We're trying to play both sides here. We want to have a Star Trek episode, but we want to have a musical. So we have to explain how it is that we can have a musical take place in the context of Star Trek and have a reason and impetus for why this has occurred. Being in a musical on the Enterprise is totally crazy. So is Naked Time, Naked Now. You know, those episodes. So crazy things have happened. But you'll notice before there's a sci-fi a reality to it. I can imagine in my head some type of alien force making us sing. But it's a stretch to imagine that singing somehow saves the day. As you can already tell, this is a very strangely structured review because I do not know how to review it. So we're kind of getting the bottom line up front, if you'll excuse me. Subspace Rhapsody, where Kirk's back. He's just in the show now. So is Batel, Captain Batel from the Cayuga. You'll notice this is a total ensemble cast. It's a real song and dance. We're really putting on a show here. We're going to see everybody's chops. Or do we? Some of this sounded like autotune. For those who do not know, autotune is a type of musical production technique in which poor singing is automatically changed to hit the correct notes that it needs to hit in post-production. Were people using autotune here? I'm not big into this music stuff. I'm not totally sure. If you thought it was there, does that bother you? Is the skill on display of the actors extending to singing for you? Do you want it to? See what I mean? This whole thing is very subjective, so it's a very hard review. Also, comedy is very subjective. You'll note that this season is full of comedy. This season, is it extremely experimental, or is it playing it safe by making everything super subjective so you can't really complain? I guess like many things, it depends on how you look at it. We detect a subspace fold naturally occurring that if we use it to send signals along, it'll increase subspace communications in this area by 3-fold. Pardon the pun. This is a fantastic thing. Imagine if you can make the internet 3 times faster. You'd do it, would you not? You would take advantage of every opportunity you could in order to exploit this natural phenomenon. They do this first with harmonics, subspace signal, and then they decide, okay, well, Pelia has this idea, music, fundamental harmonics. There's a mathematical side to music. There's a reason why things sound good. What sounds good in our universe may not be what sounds good in another universe. However, it ends up being the same type of thing that sounds good to these alternate reality aliens who I guess are communicating through music. In their reality, music is a language. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. It's explained away with some technobabble here and there, and frankly, it's not very important. Pelia has this idea to just shoot music through it. Uhura, why don't you pick the music? Okay. And she picks some show tune. Part of me wondered what would happen if she picked something without lyrics. Or if she picked something that was maybe some high energy dance number, right? Would we have characters just dancing their feet off? Maybe we get the heavy metal going. Let's get some rap. You know what? I'm calling your bluff. You want to be daring? Let's get real daring. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. We should have made this a rap episode. Yeah, dude. Yeah, that would age really well. People will be laughing at this for centuries. Maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes really bad is more fun than just totally in the middle. Remember, there's nothing worse than total apathy. Total disengagement, total apathy is worse than hate, and it's a lot worse than love. I've noticed this. So, in my mind, I tend to think about the bad episodes a lot more than I think about the good episodes. It's sad, but I guess it's just the reality of being a human, and indeed, I am a human, believe me. Despite my appearances. Spock is the first one to start singing. I don't know why I'm singing. Why am I rhyming? I'm singing about the problem at hand here. We have this subspace fold and it's not working properly. What are we going to do? It becomes blatantly obvious that this is actually a method thematically that we're using to create the idea that we need to confess things. Okay? It became clear to me after a few musical numbers that they all kind of tie into this idea that confession is what the music is trying to make you do. At the core of it, this is about communicating things to people that you were trying to hide. Okay? So, we have Pike and Batel. They're in a relationship. So is Spock and Nurse Chapel. Okay? And then there's something going on with Leanne and Kirk. 2 of these didn't really work for me, and one of them did. Can you guess which was which? We have a scene where Pike is arguing with Batel over where to go on vacation, and we can't work it out. I don't want to go here, it's too touristy. I don't want to go to Crevo, yada, yada, yada. This explodes because later on, when the singing insinuates and we can't stop singing, and it forces us to reveal our innermost problems to each other, to confess, we end up with an argument between Pike and Batel on the bridge, which was wholly unprofessional. And so it was. You could say, oh, this really sucked. I can't believe how unprofessional this is. I wish this didn't happen, especially on the bridge. Yeah, they think that too. Pike thought that as well. We're making Pike vulnerable. But it feels like we're just circling the wagons on this. In my mind, the relationship kind of issue between Batel and Pike, I know these things are complicated, and they extend into the future often much longer than we would desire. To me, we kind of put a pin on that back in Among the Lotus Eaters. I didn't really need to see it open back up again. We're circling the wagons on that. We're circling the wagon train to the stars. Didn't really need it. Similarly, we're continuing this thing on with Spock and Chapel. Chapel has a few musical numbers. So does Spock. Spock, of course, gets the first one. He's the X. Oh no, I'm the X. She's going to that Vulcan science thingy. She's going to camp, basically, on Vulcan. Remember that episode, Charades, where, I think it was Charades, where we basically figure out that, these Vulcan medical guys are just dumb. They're just stupid. And I thought the moral of that episode was that we didn't need to go. But now we're going, and we're all excited to go. A lot of old wounds just get opened, and a lot of old plot ideas are just dug back up and reanimated here. I thought we were kind of done with that. She does need to meet Dr. Corby for canonical reasons that I will not go into here. It's weird to see that dug up again. And you couldn't have a musical episode centered around the idea of confessing and relationships and love this far in a strange new worlds without having a huge scene, a huge debacle between Spock and Chapel. So I guess I can understand it, even though I didn't like it. Another musical number, though, is between Leanne and Kirk. This one I liked. This one made sense. It feels like it's the crescendo, pun intended, to what was left hanging in Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. If you don't know, spoilers for that episode. Leanne meets an alternate reality Kirk. They fall in love. And we even get a scene here that felt like it was cut straight out of that episode. One scene felt awkward, misplaced, useless in that episode. We kind of see why here. Is it a flashback to something that we didn't see in that episode? Is it something in the imagination? A flight of fancy? I don't know. But we see what happened between Leanne and alternate reality Kirk. But is this Kirk anything like that Kirk? Kinda. However, it's revealed, strangely, Kirk mentions that he's in a relationship right now. Carol Marcus. Remember her? And he knows she's pregnant. So Leanne, sorry about that. I'm kinda taken. I'm seeing someone right now. Although in a few years I'm going to go around kissing every single person in the universe. But I'm taken. So I can't kiss you. I can kiss all these aliens. But Leanne, no. I can't kiss you. I know you want it, but I can't do it. Sorry. I'm married. To the Enterprise. I will be. I often tell people that in real life. Hey, you want to go do X, Y, and Z with me? I think you're totally cool despite everything that's wrong with you. And I say, well, no, I'm sorry, I'm taken. I made a very special promise to a very special lady. And thankfully, they've yet to ask me who that lady is. It's the Enterprise. Again, we're just going from musical number to musical number. Didn't particularly enjoy any of them. Although I did feel that they got a little bit worse as it went on. On the bridge during the beginning of this episode, Una has some kind of line about how, the inertial dampers, hopefully they're not hampered. This is the helm, it is my realm. And I thought that was pretty cute. Mixing in ship words like inertial dampener and helm into the song was pretty cool. Although it kind of just disappears, and we just kind of devolve into just love talk. I love you. Do you love me? I see this. I see you. I want to be seen. I gotta tell the truth. Yada 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 yada. It may have been neat to have a musical that incorporated a lot of techno babble. Just saying. Although we're in episode 9 now, nearing the end of the season. Pelia, let's go. Let's get a win for Pelia. Somehow this episode ends up being an Uhura episode somehow. I mean, yeah, communications. And she's really burning the candle on both ends, you could say. So much computational power was taken to take advantage of this subspace fold that they have to communicate the old-fashioned way. So Uhura is patching people through. I'll help you with that in a minute. I'll tell them. Ha ha. Doing all kinds of things on her little panel here. Part of me is thinking, can we get an assistant? Do we have to lay all this work on Uhura? I don't know. But, I mean, she's getting the win this episode, although it feels like she already did. Lost in translation. It felt like we got that of her episode. This maybe could have been the Pelia episode, but it wasn't. It would have been really, really sick if Pelia had her own musical number where she had a flashback to the academy with Hemmer. And it was kind of like some type of high school musical thingy, but we got to see Hemmer in a flashback. We already got him we already got him back for a second in Lost in Translation. Why not bring him back here? If it's possible. That would have been really cool. Instead, we got an awkward musical section from Uhura where she needs to find some pattern to do some kind of thing with this musical number bit. And she sings again about losing her parents. And I'm just thinking, like, we did this. We're done. We beat that problem. I guess you could say there's 4 big musical sections. Spock, Chapel, Batel, Pike, Leanne, Kirk, and then finally just Uhura alone. And I mean, we already kind of been over. We finished this whole Uhura parents problem and getting over it. We put a bow on it in Lost in Translation, but we're back. I don't know. This episode was long. It was an hour and 2 minutes long on my streaming platform, and I'll be damned if I felt like sitting through the whole thing. I was getting a little bored by the end. I think we probably could have cut it down to like 50 minutes, honestly. I don't think we really needed that Uhura bit at the end. I thought we got the chapel song that goes on in the bar section. I thought it was too long. Again, if you love it, you'd want it to go on forever. But I didn't. I don't do the whole musical thing. I don't know. I don't know if this is good or bad. I might as well be trying to review a car or something. It feels like that's what I'm doing. This is the first episode of Star Trek, I think, since I started reviewing on this channel, where it feels like I'm trying to review something that just isn't Star Trek. And that's not a complaint. I'm not saying like, oh, this isn't Star Trek. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this is a very experimental episode, an extremely experimental season. Trying to justify itself with enough technobabble, which is par for the course for the series. But ended up with a product that was so far away from Star Trek that you're asking me to review essentially like an album of music. Like, I just don't understand why someone would watch this review to understand what's good about a musical. I don't know what to say. I don't really remember any of the musical bits off by heart. They didn't really stick with me. I didn't really love any of it. Plot-wise, what's going on here, really? We're trying to fix what we did to this subspace fold. We caused the problem. We got to fix it. We sent music through it. It bounced it back. There's a quantum reality existing here in which speech is replaced by music. And us singing actually affects the subspace fold. Okay? We need to sing to fix it. At one point, we try to fix it with something going on in the Jeffries tube. Kirk is switching some chords around. Oh, my brother always said that, Una, you were the type of first officer he thought I should be. Distant from the crew. We sing a song about leadership tactics, about command style. It's all hunky-dory. By the way, we do get scenes between Sam and Jim. Oh, chef's kiss. What's going on between Sam and James in this? It's so good. I mean, I never had a brother, but it's beautiful how they fight with their eyes. They just look at each other and they're fighting mentally in the realm of the subconscious. They are doing battle, but in the realm of reality, they just kind of smirk at each other. It's really wonderful. It's kind of make me hoping for next season just to have an episode between Sam and Jim. As crazy as that sounds, right? This is Strange New Worlds. Crazy as possible. Strange as possible. This is a strange new episode. You could say. I mean, it's certainly on brand. It's on brand, I'll say that. Eventually we decide to have Leanne and Kirk. Uh-oh. Will they, won't they? What's going to happen? It's a 2-man job to do this, to operate the transporter, to take particles from inside the subspace fold and beam them down to engineering via the transporter room. This is where a conversation between James and Leanne kind of breaks down, and Leanne says, "I'm not supposed to tell you this because it literally be like breaking a temporal directive. I met you in another timeline, and I'm sorry I'm saying this, and temporal agents are going to come back and probably kill me, but I was in love with you in a different timeline, and you're not him, and I'm going to have my own little musical number in my quarters." All very beautiful, by the way, visually. The fact that this is a musical takes full advantage of the fact that you can move the camera around, right? Scenes with dialogue, you kind of want to tend to just look at somebody's faces, do a 2-shot, look at you, look at me, look at both of us, that's 3-shot, whatever. But this is a musical. We're moving the camera around. It's very cinematic. So I'm willing to avail myself of that. The musical aspect of this episode gives us lots of interesting visuals, I will admit. What you have here is these particles that, what's going to happen here? Can we bomb it? Right after Pike's embarrassing moment on the bridge talking to Batel, he brings up, can we just attack it? Can we bomb it? And then Spock humorously says, like, that would have some merit or something like that. And Pike is like, really? What? It sounds like something Pike just made up. I don't know. Can we shoot at it? And then Spock was like, maybe. Huh? I just made that up because I was so embarrassed about what happened with Batel. I was so angry at the subspace fold that I just wanted to shoot at it. And then I just mentioned it, and Spock was like, okay. Of course, we learn later from the data we collect by this material beaming out of it that we can't afford to damage it anymore. Actually attacking it will actually make the problem worse. It'll spread it, Federation-wide, and also destabilize the Klingons. Very bad after what we did to the Klingons last episode. Remember how we killed that Klingon ambassador? I mean, yes, he was a Federation ambassador. He did defect, but that's a serious, serious little dingly-dangly hanging out of that episode, and we don't see any consequences for it. Ideally, the final episode will capstone everything that has happened here so far this season. What's going on with the Gorn? What's going on with Mbenga? What's his status left on the Enterprise? I don't know. Are we going to wrap up what happened with Cybok, Angel? You know the whole bit. We got one episode to do it. Curious that episode 9 and 10 weren't a two-parter, but this ain't no regular season of Star Trek, I tell you what. We've got comedy and then dour war story where somebody gets murdered, and then comedy and music and singing. I would say maybe the order of these episodes was a little weird. I think this episode could have been earlier in the season. But that's just me. Okay? I mentioned the Klingons. The Klingons are en route. They got the Katinga classes, D7. And they're going to try to shoot on this subspace fold. They know what's going on here. They know what we did. You try to play music into that thing, and now we can't stop singing. Eventually, it's discovered that in order to stop this whole scenario, we have to play along with this like we're in some kind of stage production, some kind of, a musical, if you will. Imagine that. Musicals have a final number, a final act. A big ensemble cast dances around and sings all raucous in one happy-go-lucky song. The finale. A musical needs a finale. Therefore, we sing a finale to fix the subspace fold, thereby giving our episode a finale. It's very deep that way. See, it's like an onion. It has layers. So we all sing on the bridge. There's like some kind of fireworks or something. The Enterprise is spinning around. We see the Klingons, and horrifically, they're not singing Klingon opera. I was wanting to get some opera, but instead we got this strange outburst from the Klingon where his voice totally changed, and then he kind of was singing some kind of pop song, and I just don't know where in the world this came from. What was the explanation for it? On the Enterprise, we're singing music I thought that we knew. Like, the characters in the Enterprise understood how to sing this type of music, so they were singing it. But then on the Klingon ship, they're kind of singing along in that same style. And I remember just thinking, wouldn't they be singing the equivalent to them of a show tune? Right? Like, if Uhura put the show tune into the subspace fold, maybe they would interpret that different when it came to them, and they would sing, like, the Klingon version of, like, a show tune. Not necessarily Klingon opera. But, you know, I was thinking, like, wouldn't it be, like, in Klingon? You know, I don't know. They just wanted the laugh, and I'll be damned if they didn't get it. They got the laugh they wanted. You're making me laugh. At the very end, though, I realized the entire episode was worth it. All that silliness, all the cringe, I'll say, was worth it for this last moment where everybody on the bridge was congratulating each other, clapping and hugging, and it was playing an extremely unapologetic version of the TOS theme. I've already rewatched that a few times. My icy old black lump of coal heart was warmed over for a split second just because of that scene. Imagine how incredible it would be if we got that scene at the very end of some episode where we really did something incredible. We really did something profound and life-changing. Made a sublime moment of discovery, self-discovery or otherwise. Instead, it's the capstone to a fun enough musical that, to me, I don't know, it wasn't really my sound. Not really my thing. Makes it hard to review, you know. Hard season to review. Lots of confusing episodes. Lots of very subjective experiences here. If it's nothing if not daring. I'll say that. And I would take this over, and forgive me for getting into kind of a mini retrospective on this season, but we are in episode 9. It warrants it. I'm starting to form my opinion of this season. I would rather this than like an extremely conservative, bland, by the numbers, like Discovery season like 3, you know, or like a Picard season 2, definitely. But in terms of overall Star Trekking across the universe, I would prefer this to all Discovery, really, in reality. I will say that. Daring, with the occasional failure, is much better than boring with the apathetic, middle-of-the-road failure that comes without doing anything interesting. You know, like I said at the beginning of this review, there's nothing worse than apathy. And I think Strange New Worlds, at this moment in time, with this episode, is not going to generate apathy. It's either going to generate hate or love. So, you know, there's a tactical benefit to it. I will say that. With all that out of the way, we wrap it up with a scene between Pike and Batel. We're ending where we began, which is always a good way to construct an episode. Let's sort this whole vacation thing out. We're going to have beef bourguignon. Believe it or not, I knew what that was. And it takes a while to make it. It's like wine, beef, onions, and I think there's coffee grounds in it. Something like that. It's really good. But it's a recipe that's known for taking a while to make. So it shows that Pike cares. You know, for those who know that recipe, they know this is a romantic recipe, okay? This is wanting to patch things up. I'm sorry we said all that stuff we did on the bridge. Yes, it was embarrassing. But let's just kiss and make up for it, okay? Just like we did in the episode Among the Lotus Eaters. It's back, baby. We solved these plot lines before, these emotional arcs. Now they're back. I would have replaced Pike and Batel with something with more between Una and Kirk was kind of cool. I would have continued with that. I mean, Kirk, after all, was on the ship to shadow Una / Pike for his new role as first officer. contact training. Maybe it would have been cooler just to have more of that. And instead of Spock and Chapel, let's have Ortegas do something. Let's have a solo number from Ortegas about being the pilot, you know? And then instead of the Uhura solo moment, have that be Pelia singing alone about replacing Hemmer, and then having flashbacks about Hemmer and singing along to Hemmer doing stuff. Just content-wise, I would have enjoyed that episode a lot better. However, this is not a review about what we didn't get. It's not a review about what I wanted. It's a review about what we have. And what we have is, in my view, an average musical piece with good visuals, an interesting theme, and a nothing plot. What's your plot? Uh-oh, we did a thing bad, and now we're all singing. We have to stop it before the Klingons come here. There you go. And of course we do it, and at the very end, Spock gets to mend some fences over some blood wine. Again, like he did in the first episode. What is it with this show and just making Spock do all the hard stuff, and then getting drunk, and then having to mend fences, as I said. An overarching theme of this season, I guess so. You know, plot, there's nothing really there. Thematically, we're saying, confess. Confess your problems. Speak out. It's important. If some alien force has to make you do it, that's good enough. Consider it an intervention. You know, take it and run with it. Be open. Tell Kirk you love him. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If he's already with Carol Marcus, then he's already with Carol Marcus. Sorry, everybody. Kirk's taken. But be honest. You know. Visually, like I mentioned before, we're just taking any excuse we can to show interesting shots of the interior of the Enterprise, the outside of the Enterprise. We get the D7/Katinga. Beautiful. How can I complain? Musically, this is a musical. I have to give it high grade. I don't like any of the music really, but surely someone else will. It's not really Star Trek music, but at the very end they had the TOS theme. That was pretty cool. What am I supposed to say? To reiterate what I said at the beginning of this review, how do I review this episode? What do you want? What did they want? I know what I want to give it. I'm going to go ahead and give this episode, simply put, a 5 out of 10. It's not terrible. It's not bad. It gets to the finish line. I have no idea how to review it. And I'll be honest with you, 0.5 of that review it's getting is just because of the very ending, where they're all on the bridge with the TOS team playing. I'll be honest. Yeah, I'm easy to please. I would have gave this like a 4.5 until I saw that last moment. Thematically, we're winning. Plot-wise, no. Musically, for me, not really. But visually, very cool. I'm kind of getting what I want. I'm getting to the finish line, but it's not going to be a rewatch for me. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to give it a 5. Maybe you loved it. I think this one is going to be very divisive. Some people respond to musicals. Some people don't. And that's just the way it is. I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I can't wait to find out what happens in the last episode of this season. Is it going to be another extreme tonal shift like we had from this episode and the last one? Are we going to go right off the deep end with the Gorn? We're going to find out. I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I'm going to see you next time I see you. So long, everyone.